Ha 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 ha! It is not, in fact, gentle fox here at all, but a strange and nefarious fox spirit. Mwahahahaha! We're going to tell you all about our kind. Then maybe we'll give you your fox back at some point. What do you think? Mwahahaha! I'm going to say no, only because it will keep you guessing. You never will know. Dun dun dun. Ha ha ha. There once was a very lonely man who was hard at work on his farm. He worked day in and day out and had plenty of food to eat and a nice home which he cared for, but he had not a wife. He had searched for many years for a woman to make his own, but could never find one suitable enough. One day, while he was about in his field, he looked up to find a staggeringly beautiful woman. She could be nothing less than a lady, and he fell in love immediately. He asked that she marry him, explaining to her all he had and how he could take care of her, and to his great joy, she agreed. Hello, Macerator, welcome in, and thank you for 10 months, and so many flowers, and even some love bears. Aww. The couple married, and they lived very happily together for many years. To the farmer's great joy, his wife one day told him that finally she was with child, and that there could be a complete family. He was overjoyed, and took great care of his wife and their unborn child. When the baby was finally born, he found that his pet dog had also beget a single puppy. He had hopes that the child and puppy would grow up together and be good companions, but as the puppy grew, it became increasingly hostile towards the farmer's wife, for no apparent reason. Months went by like this, until one day the pup-turned dog tore into the lady's arm. Terrified for her life, the woman vanished in a fit of robes and silks, and in her place sat a fox with 9 tails. She looked up in surprised bewilderment, and realizing what she had done, bolted out of the house and away from the angry jaws of the dog. Days, weeks, months went by, and she did not return. The man was heartbroken. He loved his wife and missed her, and did not care that she was really a fox spirit. He cried for her every night, wandering the fields in despair, calling out in his voice that grew hoarse and broken from tears for her to please. Kitsune. I thought you'd like it, Macerator. We've had these masks for quite a while, probably going on 2 years now, but since we can only use them when we happen to put in our contacts first, it isn't something you see very often. And I just felt like, having just returned from Japan and visited the Fushimi Inari shrine that is associated with Kitsune, and, having these masks, now would be the day that we would make use of them. Yes, Crocodiliac is first of all the people who aren't Macerator or Leon Hillen. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that little piece is just taken from a web page on the Kitsune that I had stumbled across. Tonight I figured, since we're waiting for our copy of Dune to arrive, we're just going to read little snippets like that. Most of them just like Wikipedia page type stuff, and otherwise mix in triggers and have a relaxing, simple time. If there's anything in particular you'd like, or if you have specific articles about this type of subject that you'd like to have read, by all means let me know. But that's kind of what the plan is this evening. Yeah, it probably should. It looks like it didn't save the change that I made earlier. So let me attend to that real quickly. Assassins go to feudal Japan. Wow. Okay. Well, I hope you have fun with that. That sounds like it could be intriguing. It would certainly be nice to see them, explore something that feels like it actually has to do with assassins. Ninja culture could be an interesting overlap. Maybe it's a new faction. I kind of completely checked out on the entire franchise the moment they decided to go to Norway. Hello, Fried Caffeine. How are you today? Welcome back. It doesn't matter how long it's been. It mattered only that you wanted to be here. So I hope you're going to have a good time. Today we're being lighthearted and silly. More just chatting than strictly reading, though we are doing Wikipedia type stuff related to the Kitsune. Flanking us, we have a couple of the guardian statues from the Fushimi Inari shrine. Note the little keys dangling from their mouths. They hold your secrets until I tell them to share. Mwahahaha! You never can completely trust a fox. This might be a bit too deep for a message, but I just wanted to let you know that you legitimately got you through a really tough time, so just know that you made a huge difference in my life. Well, Fried Caffeine, that is not too deep. If you got something out of being here, no matter how much, and no matter for how long, and it helped you in some way, that means the world to me. I hope it continues to help you in the future. Well, manga would pose an interesting challenge in several respects. The reading backwards format, to me, just doesn't fit my mindset, so I continually make mistakes and start reading in the wrong direction, and I'm sure that would be an issue while narrating as I retread material. I don't read Japanese well enough to be able to do that in the case of something that hasn't been translated, so that would limit my options. And I'm not entirely familiar with the copyright laws from Japan, so I would have to double check a few things on it. I'm open to the possibility for a good story. There certainly are plenty of manga recapping channels on YouTube, so somebody's getting away with it. Hello, Positricity. I'm glad you like it. You've been around for a while. Do you remember Celine Chats? Kitsune, the Japanese fox spirit, is also known as the Kumyo in Korea and the Wulijing in China. They are basically the same creature, but with a few differences based on the region. My God, this website I'm reading from has intrusive ads. They're literally playing over the top of the content and can't be resized. I don't mind them having ads. It's just when it's literally forcing itself to block out the actual content, then it reaches the point where it's useless because I'm just going to run away from the web page. So why bother to even have it in the first place? In all three cultures, the fox spirit is mostly viewed as an evil creature. They were known to enjoy the company of humans for a variety of reasons that almost always end badly for the unfortunate individual who encounters them. The main reason a fox spirit might search out a human was to suck away their life force, or even to eat human flesh and thereby steal any powers that person might have, along with all their memories, knowledge, and even their human form. I can certainly understand that, Positricity. Even their human form. Whose human form should I devour today? Crocs? No, not Crocs. Mech Raiders. Yes, we're going to steal Mech Raiders' human form. Don't mind if you don't happen to see them posting as much in the next few minutes. They're going to be busy. Don't want to spoil down the night, but you lost both your parents in 2021. Just found Mr. Fox just after that all hell your sister and you went through. Ah, good art always makes me get over so many obstacles. Well, thank you, Croc. You don't need to give me a swell head. I mean, I'm already wearing an extra face. I didn't say I'd be keeping it very long, Mech Raider. We do have the ability to regurgitate. We can give you your soul and flesh back. Mwahaha! Just consider it a borrowing. The older a fox spirit grew to be, the more powerful it became, and the more people whose life force it had leached away, the more powerful it grew as well. A fox was said to be able to take on a human form only once it had gained enough life force, and had aged up to 500 years old, and that they grew an extra tail for every 100 years of age, which means I should have, what, 3? Yeah, something like that. The oldest of foxes were said to be the 9-tailed foxes, who were 900 years old, and sometimes even older. Hello, Dragon Mike. As one mythical creature to another, I salute you, though I'll have you know we'll be taking your treasure. One coin at a time, when you're least suspecting. 4 centuries. The Kitsune in Korea, the Kumiho, and China, the Hulijing. In Korea, the Kumiho uses a marble carried in its mouth to steal wisdom from humans, usually through a kiss. In Korea, the fox spirit could take on human form at the age of 100 years of age, and the human shape will always be female. However, the fox spirit requires the use of a human skull that it places on top of its head in order to transform. It can also devour a human to take on their shape. Welcome, Tangent. Gentle Fox's stream has been taken over by one of the other fox spirits, so beware, lest ye be devoured. Does this mean that the fox itself was female? Not necessarily, but the human shape will always be that of an attractive young woman. So take that, Mech Raider. Figure that out however you like. Oftentimes, the kumyo will stake on the form of someone their intended victim knows, so that they're more trusting and easier to get close enough to. One of the telling features that you're dealing with a kumyo would be that it acts differently than the person it is portraying, either saying or eating things they usually would not. Eye of the beer holder? Sure. They might have a different eye color, or speak in an old-fashioned way, or you could begin to look for its tail, as the tail will always be present. The kumyo will try its best to hide it, refusing to face its back towards you. In China, the Hulijing is always a female who works to seduce men of great power. Oftentimes they could be found trying to insinuate themselves into the lives of generals and emperors in the hopes of manipulating political and palatial intrigues purely for their own entertainment, as far as we can tell. Who knows what a fox spirit's true intentions might really have been? Hello, bye-bye. In the Chinese stories of the fox spirit, the Hulijing can appear to be very kind and beneficial to the man whom she is with. However, she is always vicious and full of trickery towards any other women in the household, be they relatives or simple servants. She enjoys playing cruel and often fatal tricks on women, but always seems to manage to give it the appearance of an accident. And woe be to you if you were a female stepchild. So, lock up your daughters. The men whom the Hulijing are with often come to power very quickly, becoming famous with great wealth and swaths of land. However, once the Hulijing has taken all the energy generated by his hubris, and when the man begins to become old and senile and no longer able to produce the energy she craves, the Hulijing will leave, taking her immortal beauty and good luck with her, while leaving her to pine and wither over his lost love and luxury. And if this wasn't enough to convince on the hidden evils of the Chinese fox spirit, then take a look at what this classic text of mountains and seas has to say about the true form of the Hulijing. The most commonly known and most popular, where did it go? Name of the fox spirit from Japan, Kitsune. In Japan, Kitsune can be both male and female, though the females are still vastly more common. The name Kitsune is believed to have come from two words put together. Some sources suggest that the name comes from kitsu, the sound a fox makes, but it could also mean come here. Tsune, meaning always, but can also be an alternate reading of ki, which can mean both the color gold or the word for energy, depending upon which kanji you use, and ne, being the feminine version of expressing or overemphasizing a good mood in Japanese, such as in shiawase ni, I'm very happy, or ri ne, great. So Kitsune could mean always golden, or always energized, or come here always, depending upon how you interpret it. So, let's see here. I like to think that foxes are rather energetic creatures, so this reading has a certain fondness for me. However, one of the most popular tales of how the fox spirit got its moniker is from a story found in the Nihon Ryuki, roughly translated as Japanese ghost stories. It is a collection of strange and unusual lore. Let's read that tale from that same piece again. It's the same one we opened the stream with. Definite articles in all words, but with he, she, for example. Okay. My God. What was this person thinking, accepting this many ads? They come back up every 5 seconds. There was once a very lonely man who was hard at work on his farm. He worked day in and day out and had plenty of food to eat and a nice home which he cared for. But he had not a wife. He had searched for many years for a woman to make his own, but had not found one. At least not one suitable enough. One day, while he was about in his field, he looked up to find a staggeringly beautiful woman. She could be nothing less than a lady, and he fell in love immediately. He asked that she marry him, explaining to her all he had and how he could take care of her, and to his great joy she agreed. The couple married, and they lived very happily together for many years. To the farmer's great joy, his wife one day told him that finally she was with child, and that there would be a complete family. He was overjoyed and took great care of his wife and their unborn child. When the baby was finally born, he found that his pet dog had also begat a single puppy. He had hopes that the child and puppy would grow up together and be good companions, but as the puppy grew, it became increasingly hostile towards the farmer's wife, for no apparent reason. Months went by like this until one day the pup turned dog torn into the lady's arm. Terrified for her life, the woman vanished in a fit of robes and silks, and in her place sat a fox with 9 tails. She looked up in surprised bewilderment and, realizing what she had done, bolted out of the house and away from the angry jaws of the dog. Days, weeks, months went by, and she did not return. The man was heartbroken. He loved his wife and missed her, and did not care that she was really a fox spirit. He cried for her every night, wandering the fields in despair, calling out in a voice that grew hoarse and broken from tears for her to please Kitsune. Stories such as these are often the origin tales of famous people who had been born with extraordinary abilities, such as the Shugando priest Enno Gyoja and the Omyodo priest Abe no Seimei. They both claimed to have had a kitsune mother. Even though the fox spirit in this story was benevolent and kind-hearted, she still brought about sadness to the man she loved when she chose to run away. In some versions of the story, the man later died of loneliness, and in others leaves in search of his lover and never returns. There are 3 different types of kitsune in Japan. Each of these has their own special characteristics that make them a little unique on their own. Yaoko. These are considered to be kitsune, but I often wonder if they should be their own listing, as they are not really fox spirits, but demons that have taken the shape of a fox. The Hulijeng poem described above mentions them as sounding like a baby, and his crying is often used to lure in unsuspecting victims looking to save the hapless infant, only to be devoured. Mayobi. These are specifically the fox spirits that have aligned themselves as the messenger of Inari Okami. They can do no evil, and are sworn to assist his or her worshippers. These are the statues that you will see at shrines and cemeteries, wearing the distinctive red bibs. No Kitsune. These are the foxes that interact the most directly with humans, and unlike in China and Korea, they can be good or bad. They are not aligned with the Naryokami, and so are considered to be wild. But not in the same sense that an actual fox is. It's more that they can choose to do whatever they want, and do not worry about karmic reparations. Of all the stories you will find about the Kitsune, this is the type you will see the most, as they go about their lives sometimes choosing to harass and sometimes choosing to befriend humanity. What do we think? Which one am I? Am I a Yaoku? Am I a no Kitsune? Am I a Myobu? Officially, let's say I'm a Myobu, yes, aligned with the Nariokami, a keeper of secrets and a bringer of prosperity and comfort. Yes, surely that's me. No trickery. You can trust me. See, Half Herd trusts me. They've been trusting me for 4 months now, and thank you very kindly, Half Herd. Welcome back. Uh-oh. Leon chooses this moment to lay in laughing. Are they implying that I'm not so trustworthy? Courteous bow in response. Only the fox god knows, and the fox god is literally telling, but he's being coy about it. Before I move on to the section on how to expose a spirit fox, anyone in the mood for a trigger? We can always pause. Don't mind me. Mech Raider wasn't very filling. I may have to nibble on Leon after all. An adorable tusk bonk. Okay. Adorable tusk bonk time. This is Giganto. He's very small. But he wants to be big, and he knows he can be in your heart. And so we've developed a chance for him to get really big. Tusk bonk, tusk bonk, tusk bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba 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 bonk. Tusk bonk, tusk bonk, tusk bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, ba 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 bonk, bonk, ba bonk, ba bonk, 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 ba 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 bonk, ba bonk, 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 bonk. Toy triggers, eh? Did you enjoy that, Bob Gafford? In the character department. Good answer. Good answer. We like that answer. Bear with me. I just realized there was something I wanted to tweak a little bit. So let me go tweak that. All right. We've just adjusted the prices on a couple of redemptions in honor of our fox-based theme. We've knocked the price down on Professor Snuggles' Patented Ear Boop and Lady Foxicus' Legendary Glare. Mm-hmm. All right. Back to a little bit more reading, my friends. Feel free to interrupt with triggers at any point. I have no particular agenda this evening. How to expose a spirit fox. In Japan, the kitsune is often discovered because of some characteristic that cannot be hidden. As with the kumio, the kitsune will almost always have a tail, and sometimes fox ears. The kitsune will often try to stay in the shadows so that half its features cannot be seen very well. Surely they couldn't just be avoiding avoiding skin cancer or anything like that. No, you've got to assume it's because we're concealing our identity. Well, that's a rant for another day. The kitsune will often try to stay in the shadows so that its feature cannot be seen very well, as it is said that their skin will be very clear and almost luminous looking, due to having not been exposed to the sun very often. Fur, nature's sunblock. Oftentimes they might use speech. That would be considered out of date or out of fashion, since they do not often interact with humans, sometimes only coming forth every 100 years or so, and so might not know the current usage of appropriate language. They might speak at an unusual pace, either very slow or very fast. There are words in Japanese with which kitsune are said to have trouble pronouncing. One of these words is moshi. Because of this, people began to answer their doors and now their modern-day cell phones with the greeting moshi moshi, to confirm that it is not a kitsune. Kitsune and dogs do not get along, and so the kitsune may be exposed due to its adverse reactions to canine companions, such as extreme fearfulness of dogs. Well, geez, Couldn't just be that we don't like big dogs, or scrappy little terrier dogs, those creepy ones you put in purses. No. It's because we're fox spirits. Yeah, that's what that means. Stereotypes. Wanting to cause harm or wishing harm on dogs. Dogs will actively growl and attempt to chase away the kitsune because dogs are bullies. Kitsune are said to have the ability to become invisible, however, but they cannot hide their shadow, which will appear in the shape of the fox-eared kitsune. You could also see them by passing a room through with incense smoke, and the smoke will outline their forms and scare the kitsune off. They also dislike the scent of incense. Come to think of it, I do somewhat dislike the scent of incense. It usually makes my eyes water. A kitsune will always be exposed by its reflection, and will avoid anything with a mirror-like surface such as water, polished metal plates, metal spoons, or metal pots, and of course, mirrors. A lady who refuses to keep a mirror in her room would be suspected of being either a kitsune or of being possessed by a kitsune. Kitsune Tsuki, more on that below. Inari sushi is a type of tofu and rice sushi that is fried and very sweet tasting. Inari sushi is often left as offerings for the god Inari Okami. It is said that the kitsune cannot resist this type of sushi and will stop to eat it, reverting to its fox spirit form in order to enjoy the delicious treat. If you leave out the sushi, you will expose the kitsune for what he or she truly is because of this. I see. Trying to trick people into eating forbidden food. That's just so rude. And as for the no recording thing, I mean, a camera is a reflection too. So what's that mean about us? I suppose I should reveal I'm not actually distant at all. I'm just lurking within your screen, ready to pounce when you lower your guard. Neither MacRaider nor Leon sated my appetite. Who will be next to be snacked on? Maybe Bye-Bye can give up a bye and just be Bye 95. Yes, then we could be twins. Hoshi no Tama. This is a type of ball, similar to the Kumyo's marble, that contains some of the kitsune's power. It appears as a glowing, floating ball that is precious to the kitsune. If you can find and keep this ball, the kitsune will be compelled to serve you in order to earn it back. However, kitsune will try everything in its power to get it back. It is similar in nature to foxfire, also known as will-o-wisps. Bye-Bye seems to be ducking out at this point. They must not want to be nibbled upon. Fine. Half-Herd already indicated that there was only half of them in their name. We don't mind a light snack. We'll take the other half. Kitsunetsuki, Fox Spirit Possession. This is a long and complicated topic, especially among the Shugendo, who still regularly perform exorcisms. Just know that this type of kitsune is not a true kitsune, and that fox spirits can possess both humans and actual fox. When in possession of a human body, the kitsune will often cause all sorts of trouble. Usually it's benign fun, but oftentimes it will become more nefarious as time goes by. Entire families have been led to financial ruin over fox possession. How to keep the spirit fox out of the proverbial chicken coop. The best way to keep the fox spirit away from you is to be proactive in self-preservation. They cannot take what you do not give. They are not gods, and they are not all powerful. Ignoring them is your best defense. But you don't ignore me. You would never ignore a sweet, innocent, gentle fox. We live in your dreams and help you find your sleep. When it comes to the Kitsune, their main strengths are being able to trick you and use subterfuge to make your life complicated. This could mean they make a wonderfully fun companion or a terrible roommate. They come in like a whirlwind and then are gone before you know what hit you, leaving you feeling tired and yet wanting more. If you're not careful, dear reader, you might find yourself outside, wandering the streets, calling Kitsune. And that's the end of that particular article. Just bye-bye without the 95. Very cute. Okay. Let's see here. Let's use that new washi fan for that name trace. I hope you enjoyed that name trace. Bye-bye, no 95. So, I found an interesting series of PDFs. That is what we're going to be drifting into now. You feel younger without the 95? So do I. And since I'm snacking on your soul, that works out. According to the reference point that I found this PDF, the hardest book to find on Japanese fox mythology that we know of is Kitsune, Japan's Fox of Mystery, Romance, and Humor by Kiyo Shonozaki. Unfortunately, it is also one of the most interesting, having been written by an actual Japanese scholar. Published in 1961 by the Hokuseido Press, it is now long out of print and very hard to obtain copies of. For those of you who can't afford the collector book prices out there and don't have access to a library with a copy of the book, we have taken it upon ourselves to scan and post the text of this to the web in the interest of furthering scholarship on fox mythology, which of course means this PDF is, in some context, stolen, which sounds very much like a fox spirit sort of thing to do. And it's broken up into 6 chapters: background and appreciation, concerning the Inari Shrine, concerning the Konjaku Monogatari, and then 3 chapters of The Fox of the Konjaku Monogatari, Part 1, 2, and 3. I think I'd actually like to start with concerning the Inari Shrine. So let's see what this author had to say. The Inari Shrine, one of the most popular and prosperous shrines of Japan, is so closely related to Kitsune tradition that the animal with the Japanese people in general is synonymous with the shrine. The Inari Shrine, with its characteristic red torii, a symbolic entrance to the precincts of a shrine, and a pair of white fox images, the messengers of the deity, will be found everywhere in the country, in towns, in villages, and a miniature one in private houses, geisha houses, on department store roof gardens, and other places. Hello, Banana Roofie. If you're looking for Fox, he's still missing. We are a related fox spirit, come to discuss our noble people. But it's good to see you in, Banana Roofie. We've been waiting for more snacks. The Inari Shrine was originally created in 711 as their patron deity by the influential Hata, the descendants of the Korean prince naturalized in the 4th century. Because of the fact that the Inari Shrine is greatly concerned with the tradition of the fox in Japan, I will speak here about the shrine in detail. The shrine is dedicated to Inari, the god of rice. The name Inari is derived from the word of ine, rice plant. Inari means literally the growing of rice plants. It means, in substance, rice crop. Rice in Japan is the symbol of agriculture, the symbol of life in ancient times, in the phenomenon of the sprouting. In the growth of the rice plants, the young and fresh spirit of the Inari god was to be felt. Thus the name Inari was given by the founder of the shrine, the Hata. Snacks. So yes, you could be a potato. Although I don't normally eat potatoes raw, we may have to fry you up a bit. Rough fox? No, not rough fox. We like better words than rough. We are sinister fox. Speaking of Inari, it is interesting to note, from the etymological point of view, that there are many Japanese archaic words with the suffix of ri. For example, ikari, anger; okori, origin; hikari, light; akari, source of light; inori, prayer; mamori, protection; minori, crop, and others. As it is clearly seen from the above instances, the Japanese suffix ri means something related closely to the divine work or power of God. Ikari, anger, is a word originally used in expressing a strong emotion aroused at seeing a gushing spring. Later, this word was used in expressing the intense feeling of God and men. Okori, origin, means the power of Mother Nature. Hikari, light, and Akari, source of light, has something to do with the mysterious power of God, for which human beings are grateful. Inori, prayer, in any language, is the act of offering reverent petition, especially to God, and in the case of Inari, meaning inenari, the rice crop, it signifies the fruit of the farmer's labor gained by the grace of God. Sinister fox, your new intro should be silence, followed by a sudden, "Here's Foxy." Fox continues breaking down the door violently with his axe. That could be. That could work. That could be entertaining. Of course, this is not a regular thing. We fox spirits drift in and out of lives, and I don't know. I don't particularly think I do a very good Jack Nicholson. All the foregoing words with the suffix of ri are religious words. The name of Inari, therefore, was given by the Hata to their tutelary god out of gratitude to the god of rice. Would that truly be funny, Banana Roofie? Because I bet you if it actually happened, you would freak. Some people think that the white foxes, the guardians and messengers of the shrine, are identical with the deity of Inari. It is true that this is one of the characteristics of the faith. However, this, it must be remembered, is only an aspect of the Inari faith. This can be proved by the fact that the god of foxes has never been deified in the Inari shrine as the object of worship, though there is a tributary shrine dedicated exclusively to the sacred white foxes in the precincts of the shrine at Fushimi, Kyoto, the site of the great Inari shrine. Just reuse the intro Fox News. Oh, yeah. Nah, I think you're a ticklish type of fella, and boy, have I got the tickling techniques. Oh dear, what have I done by wandering into your clutches, Banana Roofy? For whatever reason, this last bit of talking about the shrine has reminded me that I have thought of an incredibly silly character that someday I wish to use in a D&D campaign. And when I say incredibly silly, the entire character concept is basically a pun. Alright? So you ready for this? I want to play a multi-classed Bard and Artificer. This is a strange combination. An Artificer is someone who makes magic using technology and makes strange technology. And a Bard is, of course, an entertainer. In this case, a storyteller. So why would I combine an artificer and a bard? Well, I kind of like the idea of playing a roving author who breaks out his typewriter after every little pause in the adventure in order to write up quick notes to dash off to some distant entity that mass produces it as penny dreadfuls, so that the author is in worldwide circulation for their cheap adventures. Now, if that sounds fun, hello, Iswani, how are you today? It's kind of a pun, but if that sounds fun, I want this character to be a Hadozi. A Hadozi is a race from the Spelljammer textbooks that is essentially a flying monkey, a gliding monkey. So if I have a monkey who is a storyteller using a typewriter to type up all of their adventures, what I have is the monkey that will eventually, given enough time, type the complete works of Shakespeare. I think it's punny. It won't be down to earth at all. Nope. But it's a monkeys and typewriters joke. I just think it would be fun. What's new in your world today, Swanee? In former years, the Inari Shrine was supposed to have the senior grade of the first court rank, Sho-Ishi. The fox gods, however, had no rank, though they were enjoying general popularity. To illustrate this point, here is a poem by Issa, a haiku poet of the early 19th century, a humorous haiku composed by him on the occasion of the festival of Hatsuuma, held annually at the Inari Shrine throughout the country in February. O spring season's gaieties, the white foxes bark in a festive mood, with no court rank of mark. The white foxes of the Inari Shrine are also called Myobu. Here's a legend of why they are so named. In the reign of Emperor Ichio, 980 to 1011, there lived a charming court lady with the rank of Myobu, a court rank conferred on ladies, whose name was Shin no Myobu. She was a devotee of Inari god. Sounds good, Banana Rumi, but let me finish this particular tale, and then we'll do that. She went to the shrine at Fushimi, Kyoto, to confine herself there for prayer for a period of 7 days. After she had completed her term of worship, it is said, she won the heart of the Mikado, and later became his consort. She attributed her good luck to the white foxes guarding the shrine, and the name of Myobu was given to them. That's what I said, Banana Rumi. I don't know why. Maybe I've decided I'm moving in. We foxes are intrusive, you know. Intrusive. Sinister. Not evil. Sinister. Let's see. For your name trace, we shall use claws. Yes, that's it. Claws. Banana Roofie. You won't need those tickling hands much. Of course, Banana. And here's a mythological story telling us how the white foxes became with the Inari Shrine, or connected with the Inari Shrine. To the north of the capital, Kyoto, there lived a pair of very old white foxes in the neighborhood of Fumeoka Hill. The he-fox was a silver-white furred animal, and looked as if he were wearing a garment of bristling silver needles. He always kept his tail raised while walking. The she-fox had a deer's head with a fox's body. Their 5 cubs would follow them wherever they went. Each of these cubs had a different face. During the Koin era, 810 to 823, the 2 white foxes, accompanied by the 5 cubs, made their way to the Inari Shrine at Fushimi, leaving their earth near Fumeoka Hill. When they reached the Inariyama Hill on which the shrine stood, they prostrated themselves in front of the shrine and said reverently, "O great God, we are naturally gifted with wisdom, though we were born as animals. Now we sincerely wish to do our part for the peace and prosperity of the world. We regret, however, that we are not able to realize our purpose. O great God, we pray from the bottom of our hearts that you would graciously allow us to become members of the household of this shrine, so that we will be able to realize our humble wish." Greatly impressed by the sincerity with which these words were spoken, the sacred altar of the shrine instantly shook as if by an earthquake, and the next moment the foxes heard the solemn voice of the Inari god coming from behind the sacred bamboo screen. "We're always endeavoring to find some means to bestow the divine favor of Buddha on all men by doing our best. Your desire, foxes, is really praiseworthy. We will allow you, all of you, to stay here to do your service in this shrine forever. We expect you to assist with sympathy the worshippers, and the people in general with the faith. We order you, he-fox, to serve at the upper temple. We give you the name of Osuzuki. And you, she-fox, shall serve at the lower temple. We give you the name of Akumachi." Hereupon each of the foxes, including the 5 cubs, made 10 oaths and began to comply with the wishes of all the people. It is generally believed that if any person with the Inari faith actually sees the natural shape of a white fox, or even sees it in a dream, he is receiving a divine revelation of the god of Inari through the medium, the messengers of the deity. And here is a reliable record of how the white foxes of the shrine became closely connected with the Inari god. Imperial Princess Toyuke, goddess of crops, to whom the Inari shrine is dedicated, was commonly called goddess Piketsu. people wrote the word of Miketsu using a phonetic equivalent of Miketsu, 3 foxes. Since then they believed that the deity was a fox deity, and also were under the impression that the Inari shrine was sacred to Kitsune, a fact proving that the thought of ancestor worship was combined with that of animal worship. Consequently, they thought that when they had faith in the Inari god, the fox messenger would make its appearance during an act of charity and benevolence. See the legend of Sanjio Kokaji, the swordsmith, appearing in the chapter Fox in No Place. Thus the fox faith nourished throughout the country. I missed you too, Banana. It is a well-known fact that all religions had a messenger for the communication of God and men. In Christianity, for instance, we see the holy sheep, or angels, affecting the connection between the celestial world and the lower world, and we also see other messengers transmitting the Christian doctrine. In the case of Buddhism, we see a sort of Buddha, the Bodhisattva, next to a Buddha in rank, and also Jizo, Ksitagarbha, a guardian deity of children. They are the messengers of Buddha, endeavoring to bring about the redemption of all men. See these messengers of Buddha appearing in the tales of the Konjaku Monogatari, to be introduced later. And Inari gods has the white foxes as his messengers. There are many messengers in the service of temples and shrines in Japan, such as snakes, pigeons, crows, deer, etc. In this connection, it must be added that the foxes in the service of Inari god have nothing to do with the bewitchery or mischief of other foxes, which are commonly called nogitsune, or wild foxes. One of the duties of the Inari shrine at Fushimi in Kyoto was to purge or chastise these nogitsune. The direct descendants of the Hata, founder of the shrine, had a secret method of driving away these wild foxes possessing men. There is a very interesting document treasured in the Onishi family, the descendants of the Hata, a note sent to the shrine from Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the tycoon, 1536 to 1598, the first commoner in Japan to rise to the highest state office and the unifier of the Japanese Empire. The note was written by Hideyoshi when the daughter of his adopted son, Ukita Hideye, was reported suffering from fox possession. It runs as follows. To the Inari god, Ukita's daughter is now babbling, apparently possessed by a wild fox. I hope that the fox will be dispersed immediately. When no suitable measures be taken, a nationwide fox hunt will be ordered. P.S. The chief priest of the Yoshida shrine also notified concerning of this matter. Hideyoshi signature. Note. Sending a note of protest to a god demanding him to drive away a wild fox supposedly possessing his adopted son's daughter is Hideyoshi's way of doing things. Hideyoshi reflects the spirit of the age. He believed in power, however he also believed in the Inari god, and built the 2-storied gate of the shrine. That's kind of cool. Bear with me now. I need to add a source because I think it's finally time for us to display or run those videos that we recorded at Fushimi Inari. Bear with Fox, that's right. There's a movie out there that features a bear and a fox team up. Do you know its name? Well, quick, you've got to find it. You're not even going to try, are you? You're just going to leave it unknown for all perpetuity. Let's see here. I think this is our file. Nope. Something a little wrong with that. It's upside down. There we go. Fushimi Inari Shrine by night. Again, I can't tell how loud it is, so if it's too loud, please tell me. It's okay, bye-bye. I was teasing anyway. There is no such film. I just wanted to see how long you'd look. Because, fox spirit, ha 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 ha. They say the light plays tricks in this shrine. It's clearly true with all these crisscrossing beams of light. I couldn't even see there were stairs. Something very ominous about this place in the dark. No matter which path you follow, it's like it's a little too inviting and yet a little too off-putting at the same time. Obviously, I'm not alone. Though I suspect those are other tourists. Or maybe the souls of lost tourists. I did hear a scream earlier. But it could have been a bird. Or a monkey. You can hear the occasional patter of raindrops. It's not raining, just filtering down through the leaves and dripping off the taisha. And frogs. And the occasional night bird. An ant wandered through a little while ago. I said hello. He said nothing in response and ambled on. So this is what my little ghost hunt was like, wandering through the taisha and listening to strange sounds, distant people. It is kind of spooky. Looking at weird things off in the dark. Long stretches of shadow. The flanking images of the clumps of light off in the woods with no explanation. Also from that side. At least until you're around the corner and figure out where the path goes. Quite the game of hide and seek here. Of course, you might never be found again. And at this point, we are here. Just a short little video to make it fun. I had much more entertaining pictures than I had the video. I also recorded one that is just ambient sounds, but I thought I would show that a little bit off, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now, back to our reading. We've finished the section on the shrine. Let's maybe just dive right on in to the next section. Okay. Let's go straight to the fox of the Konjaku Monogatari. The story of a young samurai who copied the Sutra of the Lotus for the repose of a fox's soul. Once there was a young and handsome samurai living in Kyoto, the capital, name unknown. One evening on his way home, he was passing near the Shujaku gate of the imperial palace when he saw a girl with a graceful figure, about 18 years old, attired in an exquisite robe of silk, standing on the main road. She looked so beautiful with her raven black locks straying in the gentle breeze that the samurai was instantly fascinated by her. He approached the girl and invited her to go inside the gate and have a chat for a while with him. She complied with his request to his great delight. They stayed in a quiet place inside the gate and talked together. Soon the stars began to twinkle here and there in the sky, and even the Milky Way was seen faintly. It was a balmy evening. Said the young man, "We have met here by a happy chance, by the providence of God, I might say. Therefore you should accede to my request in every way. We should share the same feelings. I love you, and you must love me," answered the girl. "If I comply with your request in every way, I must die. This is my lot." "Your lot to die?" The young samurai echoed her words. "It is hardly possible. You are simply avoiding me by saying so." And he tried to gather her up in his arms. The girl shook herself loose from his grasp and said tearfully, "I know you are living with your wife, that you are telling me you love me on the spur of the moment. I am weeping because I must die for a man of moods." He denied what she said, again and again, until she acquiesced. In the meantime, the stars of the Milky Way were shining more brightly in the heavens, a night of romance. They found a shed in the neighborhood, and spent the night together there. A lone cricket was heard chirping throughout the night. The summer morning broke soon. The girl said, "Now I'm going home to die because of you, as I told you last evening. When I pass away, please say a mass for the repose of my soul by copying the Sutra of the Lotus and offering it to the merciful Buddha." Said the young man, "It is the way of the world that man and woman have intimate relations with each other. You are not destined to die necessarily. However, if you should die, I will not fail to do as you wish. I promise," said the girl sadly, tying back her stray locks. "If you care to see whether I am now telling you is true or not, come to the neighborhood of the Botoku-den this morning." The young samurai could not believe what was told him by that beautiful girl. She said in a mournful tone, "Let me keep your fan as a memento." She took the fan. He took her hand and looked straight into her eyes. He followed her outside and stood looking after the departing figure until it faded into the grayish veil of the morning mist. The young man could not bring himself to believe what the girl had said. However, during the morning he went to the neighborhood of the Botoku-den, as he was very anxious to know the fate of the girl. There he saw an old woman sitting on a stone, bitterly weeping. "Why are you crying so? What is the matter with you, old woman?" he asked her. "I am the mother of the girl you saw near the Shujaku gate last night. She is now dead," she answered. "Dead?" the young man said with a dubious look. "Yes, she is dead. I've been waiting for you here, to break the sad news to you. The dead person is lying over there." So saying, the old woman pointed to a corner of the big hall, and the next moment she was gone like magic, no one knows where. The young samurai, approaching the spot pointed, found a young fox lying dead on the floor, its face covered with an open white fan, the very fan given by him. "So this fox was the girl I met last night," he said mournfully to himself. He could not help but feel pity for the poor fox. He returned home with a heavy heart. He started copying the Sutra of the Lotus immediately, as was requested by the fox in the form of a beautiful girl. He found the task a hard one. However, he copied one sutra every week, and offered it to Buddha, and prayed for the repose of the soul of the dead fox, night and day. One night, about 6 weeks later, the young samurai dreamed a dream, a strange dream in which he met the beautiful girl. She looked so noble and divine that he thought her to be a celestial nymph. Said the girl in the dream, "You have saved me by copying the Sutra of the Lotus and offering several of them to Buddha. I was reborn through your efforts in paradise, delivered from sin. I am eternally grateful to you." So saying, she ascended to heaven to sweet celestial music. She was accompanied by 2 maids of honor, and he saw the great Buddha sitting calmly with his saints in front of the castle of heaven, and several scrolls of the Sutra of the Lotus were seen flying in the air like so many birds, as if welcoming the girl. It was a dream. However, the young samurai still continued to copy the Sutra of the Lotus for the repose of the soul of the young fox who died for him. The story of a fox coming disguised as a wife. Once the wife of a zoshiki. What's a zoshiki? A petty officer low in rank, not allowed to wear the robes of regular color. Okay. Once the wife of a zoshiki went out at dusk on urgent business. She did not, however, come home for quite a long while. Her husband, naturally, felt it strange. After a while, however, the wife returned home to the relief of the husband. Then, to his surprise, another woman entered the house. She was a woman exactly like his wife. The same face, the same figure, the same voice, the same manner, in the same dress. The zoshiki samurai was puzzled, to say the least of it. One of them must be a fox, or something in the guise of my wife, he thought. How to tell one from another? This was a very difficult thing for me to decide. In desperation, the zoshiki finally pulled his sword from its sheath in an attempt to kill the woman coming home after the first one. Said the woman, crying, "Are you going to kill me? Have you lost your mind?" Then the man, again in desperation and reckless, rushed toward the woman, returning first, with the sword raised overhead. The woman screamed and implored him to spare her, clasping her hands. At this juncture, however, her behavior raised suspicion in the mind of the zoshiki. Therefore he seized her by the arm as he wanted to take her captive. The woman, however, turned herself instantly into the shape of a fox, made water on the man, and ran away through the open door barking, and disappeared into the gathering twilight. Well, I suppose that's one fox-based offense. Turn back into a fox, pee on someone, run away. The zoshiki samurai was angry with the fox for making a fool of him, but it was now too late. He had his mind set to work a little earlier. It was his fault. In the first place, he should have caught both women and bound them with ropes. If he had done so, the fox would have revealed its natural shape sooner or later. However, the fox was lucky in effecting its escape. The animal had evidently seen the wife of the zoshiki and wanted to disguise itself as the wife for fun. In such a case, one should be cautious not to be deceived by such a crafty and mischievous beast as a fox. The zoshiki was also lucky not to have killed his own wife. The story of a fox repaying kindness for returning its treasured ball. Once there was a woman believed to have been possessed by a fox. Said this woman to those present one day, "I am a fox, but I am here not to bring evil upon people. I just came as I thought I could find some food here and there." Presently she produced a whitish ball about the size of a mandarin orange, and she played with it by throwing it up in the air and catching it as it fell with her hands. The people who saw it thought that she had the intention of cheating them by some trick. A young samurai who happened to see it took the ball when it was thrown and pocketed it. Said the woman possessed by a fox, "How mean you are! Return the ball immediately. Give it back to me." The young fellow, however, laughing, would not return it to her. the woman said again with falling tears. "It would be useless for you if you do not know how to use it. However, it is a thing indispensable to me. If you do not give it back to me, therefore, I will cast an evil spell on you. If, on the other hand, you will be good enough to return it to me, I will protect you as your guardian angel." "Is that true?" said the samurai doubtfully. "Without fail," answered the woman. "In such things I never tell a lie. And mind you, I am not an ungrateful fox either." The young man produced the whitish ball of the size of a mandarin orange and gave it back to the woman, who received it gladly. The woman, believed to have been possessed by a fox, came to herself a little later, thanks to the prayers offered by an ascetic who visited the house. Then they searched the woman for the whitish ball. Strange to say, however, it was missing. It must have been taken away by the fox who possessed the woman, they said. Later, the young samurai who returned the whitish ball to the woman, possessed by a fox, went to Uzumasa, the suburbs of Kyoto, the capital, one evening. He went by way of Omuro, so it was quite dark by the time when he was passing the Oten Gate. He did not know the reason why, but at that time he felt a chill creep over him. He was sure something was to happen and that he was in danger. He was wondering whether he could find some way of escape. Now he recalled what had been told by the woman possessed by a fox. She might protect me in such a case, he thought. Therefore he cried aloud in the dark, "Kitsune! Kitsune!" The fox did come. It came out from somewhere, barking softly in response to the call. Said the samurai to the fox, "You did not tell me a lie. I am very glad that you came. Glad indeed to see that you are a reliable animal. I felt a chill creeping over me while I was passing here. I thought something is wrong. I hope you will go along with me for some distance." The fox seemed to understand what was said to it. It walked ahead of the samurai, turning back anxiously now and then. The road along which he was now being led by the fox, he found, was overgrown with low striped bamboos, a path he was not accustomed to walk before. He was tracing the path, following the fox proceeding at a trot. Occasionally the fox stopped and looked around, and continued to walk stealthily with bent back. The man walked, following the example of the animal. Soon the young samurai was conscious of the fact that there were signs of some people lurking somewhere. They were armed with bow and arrow and swords and halberds, and were a band of robbers. They were, as he thought, planning to break into somebody's house. He could now understand well that the fox walking ahead of him had successfully passed the spot without being perceived by those rough men. The fox left the samurai, barking softly again at the end of their path. He came home safely. After that, it is said, the fox would act as his guardian angel, as it had promised. On several occasions he found that Kitsune was an animal very grateful, repaying the kindness of man. Are we enjoying these stories? I thought it would be fun to actually tip into mythology for a bit. The story of a fox who got killed assuming the form of a cedar tree. Nakadayu, nephew to the chief Shinto priest of the Kasuga shrine at Nara, was once roaming about with his servant towards evening on a lonely mountain, when they espied a gigantic cedar tree standing ahead of them about 200 feet high. Said Nakadayu to his servant, "I never saw such a big cedar tree standing near here in this mountain before. Can you see the tree yonder?" "Yes, master," answered the servant. "I can see a big cedar tree over there." "I don't think we have such a gigantic cedar tree even in other parts of this province," said Nakadayu. "We have cedar trees in this province, however I have never seen such a big one before," agreed the servant. "In that case," observed Nakadayu, "we might have been bewitched by a fox. We had better go home now." They had been walking about the mountain to cut plenty of grass for the horse kept at Nakadayu's house. They were unaware of the passing of time. In the gathering dusk, they saw the moon rise and cast a weird light on the gigantic cedar tree. A nocturnal bird screeched somewhere. A bush hard by rustled in the stillness of the mountains, as if a bandit lurking behind it were coming out. Master and servant exchanged glances, and each of them fixed an arrow to the string of the bow they were carrying for self-defense. A squirrel appeared, and quickly vanished across the path. "Before we go home," said the servant, "let us shoot the cedar tree, and come here again tomorrow morning to see it." They notched an arrow upon their bows. "We had better shoot the cedar tree from a shorter distance," advised the servant. They proceeded a little farther, drew their bows to their full extent, and both shot at the giant tree at the same time. Whiz went the arrows, and the next moment they saw the huge tree disappear. They were afraid that it might be the act of some uncanny hand, so they left the spot without delay. The following morning, they found an old fox shot dead, with 2 arrows stuck in its body, at the very spot where the gigantic cedar tree had been observed standing by Nakadayu and his servant. The prank of the fox cost it its life. The story of a fox fond of riding on a horse's buttocks. A young pretty girl would stand on the bank of the Kaya River to the east of the Ninnaji Temple in Kyoto. Of an evening, when she saw a man passing there on horseback in the direction of the capital, she would ask him to give her a ride. The girl would invariably say, "I want to go to the capital riding on your horse's buttocks." The rider would answer, "All right, you may ride on my horse's buttocks." However, when we went on for about 500 yards with the girl riding on the horse's back, she would slip down from on the horse and run away in the shape of a fox, barking with delight. The mischief mentioned above was repeated several times, and the victims were always men passing on horseback along the bank of the Kaya River to the east of the Ninnaji Temple. Now, at the station of the Takaguchi, the headquarters of the guards belonging to the imperial palace, somebody spoke about the girl riding on the horse's buttocks on the bank of the Kaya River. On hearing this, a young Takaguchi officer, we will call him the Takaguchi in this narrative, said, "Well, I will catch her and teach her a lesson." Other Takaguchi officers present said with one voice, "Certainly we will catch her." Said the Takaguchi who spoke first. "I will capture her tomorrow evening." Said somebody, "Can you?" "Certainly I can," was the answer. The Takaguchi, on the following evening, went by himself to the bank of the Kaya River, riding a very intelligent horse. The girl in question, however, was not to be seen there. Disappointed, the Takaguchi was riding back in the direction of the capital when he saw a girl standing by the roadside. On seeing the Takaguchi coming, riding, she said cheerfully, "Hey, give me a ride on your horse's buttocks, won't you?" "Surely. Climb on quickly. Where are you going?" said the Takaguchi. Answered the girl, "To the capital. It's getting dark, so I want to go there, riding on your horse's buttocks." As soon as the girl got on the horse's buttocks, the officer tied her by the wrist of the saddle with a rope used for hitching a horse. Said the girl, "Why do you do such a brutal thing to me?" Replied the Takaguchi, "To prevent you from getting away from me, of course. I'm now taking you to my quarters to sleep with you tonight, my girl." Wow, okay. So, right, first thing she has happened is that she's thrown into bondage and then told she's going to be... Yeah, alright. Not a kind story. They continued riding. It was now quite dark. After passing Ichiyo, they proceeded along the road toward the east. When passing Nishinomiya, the Takaguchi saw a procession approaching toward him from the east, preceded by a forerunner on horseback, holding a pine torch to light the road. By torchlight, the Takaguchi could see some carriages drawn by oxen, moving in stately fashion to the musical creak of their heavy wheels, with 2 men walking before each carriage, holding pine torches in their hands. Their figures were seen in relief against the darkness of night. The Takaguchi thought it was a procession of some personages of high rank. Therefore he turned back out of respect and went on, riding along the road of Nishi-no-Omiya toward the east, from Higashi-no-Omiya to Tsuchimikado. At the gate of the Tsuchimikado Palace, the Takaguchi called out to his followers, whom he had previously ordered to wait for him there. Set about 10 men under the Takaguchi coming out. "At your service, sir." Then the Takaguchi pulled the girl down from the horse after unfastening the rope, and he ordered his men to make a fire on the ground, and then he went to the Takaguchi station. Aroused by the clamor, all his fellow Takaguchi officers emerged from the station. Said the captor of the girl, "I have caught her." The girl began to cry and entreated to be released. The fire was now burning brightly on the ground. Said all Takaguchi officers with one consent, "Release her! Into the fire with her!" The Takaguchi who had caught the girl said that she might escape if this were done. However, they said that it would be fun to throw her into the fire and shoot her with bows and arrows in a volley. About 10 Takaguchi officers notched their arrows upon their bows. The Takaguchi who had been holding the girl coming from the bank of the Kaya River threw her right into the fire. The girl, however, turned herself in a twinkling into the shape of a fox, and before they could send a volley of arrows, effected her escape, putting out the fire. In the dark, the Takaguchi called to his men. No response. Not a single man was there, and to his surprise he found himself on a lonely plain. He could see that it was now in the midst of a cremation ground at Toribeno, located in the suburbs of the capital. The only crematory in the Heian era, Toribeno was a word used as a synonym of death in those days. He thought that he had dismounted from his horse at the gate of the Tsuchimikado Palace. He was mistaken. He recalled that he had turned back to go to Tsuchimikado. He was mistaken. He had come to this desolate and death-like crematory instead. He imagined that he had seen many pine torches burning in the dark after patching Ichigo. He remembered seeing all these things clearly, including the 2 torch carriers walking on each side of a carriage drawn by an ox. He was deplorably mistaken. Now he knew that the torches were nothing but the fire produced by foxes by stroking their tails. Brave as he was, the Takaguchi had no alternative but to go on foot. He had no horse to ride on. He returned home dog-tired and chagrined about midnight. His fellow Takaguchi officers at the station at Tsuchimikado, on the other hand, wondering what had become of the Takaguchi since he left on his adventure, sent a messenger to the Takaguchi's quarters to look for him 2 days later. "Hi, Dean. How are you today?" The Takaguchi, in the evening of the 3rd day, presented himself at the station, feeling like a sick man. Asked his friends, "Did you go to catch the fox girl the other evening?" Replied the Takaguchi with some asperity. "No, I did not. I was ill. Very ill." Asked his fellow officers again, "What are you going to do now?" "I will go and catch her this evening," was the rejoinder. Said another Takaguchi, laughing, "Catch 2 of them this evening, I hope." The Takaguchi left the station without saying a word. This time he said to himself, "The fox may not come this evening, as it was outwitted by me the other night. If it appears this evening, I will never loosen my hold on her. Never. I will hold it all through the night. If it does not appear this evening, I will not present myself at the station, but keep to my quarters for some time." He set out on horseback, followed by several strong men of the Kaya River, or for the Kaya River. He soliloquized once more. "Going to make myself a fool again, eh? I cannot help it, though, since I said I would catch her." The fox girl was not in sight when the Takaguchi crossed the Kaya River by a bridge. However, when he was coming back disheartened, he saw a girl standing at the edge of the river. He found that she had a different face. The girl accosted him and said, "Hey, give me a ride on your horse's buttocks, won't you? I want to go to the capital." The Takaguchi obliged her. However, the moment she was on horseback, he lost no time in tying her up with a rope as before. It was getting darker and darker as the Takaguchi was riding along the Ichiyo Road in the direction of the capital, accompanied by his men. He ordered his followers to kindle pine torches and carry them ahead of him and beside his horse. They went on, but they saw nobody until they reached the Tsuchimikado Palace. The Takaguchi got off his horse. He seized the fox girl firmly by her hair. She cried, but he would not have mercy on her. He brought her to the Takaguchi station. He was deaf to her entreaties, and she seemed quite to realize the situation this time. The fellow officers came to see the captive. "So you've caught her at last, eh?" they said. The fox girl was tortured and tortured until she could stand it no longer, and she turned herself into the form of a fox. They scorched the animal with pine torches. "Oh, spare me!" the fox yelled plaintively. The Takaguchi said, "We have given it a lesson. Set it free." They released the fox. It scampered off, limping. About 10 days later, the Takaguchi went to the Kai River. He wanted to see the fox girl again out of curiosity. She was there. She looked ill and beaten. Said the Takaguchi to the fox girl, "Don't you want to ride on my horse's buttocks?" Responded the fox in the guise of a pretty girl weakly. "I should like to ride on your horse's buttocks, but I don't like to have my precious fur scorched. No, thank you." With that, she vanished. This is a very strange thing. Nevertheless, it did happen, and not long ago, so this writer, Takakumi, the author of the Konjaku Monogatari, was told by the narrator of this tale. What's new in the realm of Dean? Any new excitement? In case you can't tell, we are being a little silly today. We've thrown up some imagery from the Fushimi Inari shrine and donned our fox mask, and we're just kind of reading through some lore and mythology related to Kitsune. It's a filler episode, that's right, or we're waiting for our latest book to arrive. Hello, Nobru, welcome in. The story of the man infatuated with a fox, saved by the goddess of mercy. He was feeling very lonesome, a man of 50, with his wife gone to the capital, Kyoto, on business. It was an evening in the autumn of 895. Yoshifuji of Kaiyo County in Bichu province was seen rambling alone along the country road. A rich man engaging in exchange business, he was wanton by nature and in the habit of taking to amour. It is not end of stream yet. You're actually still in your window. You actually get to enjoy us for a bit. I know, it's so rare. Presently he met an attractive woman. She was an utter stranger in the community. Yoshifuji, however, found it impossible to control himself. She smiled a charming smile as she approached him. She had a set of pearly teeth. "A nice evening," he accosted her. With women his talk was usually gentle and soothing. "Where are you going? And who are you? I've never seen you before." "I am nobody," the woman said laughingly. Yoshifuji was now completely swayed by passion. "Come with me," he said. "No, I'm going home," replied the woman. "You come with me." "Where you live?" asked the money man. "I live over there, not far from here. Come with me," she invited him again. They walked together. Yoshifuji soon saw a splendid house standing at a short distance. "That is our house," told the woman. He had never seen such a fine house before. In this neighborhood, a fact that puzzled him considerably. However, he was now so fascinated with the woman that he did not pay much attention to that. When he arrived at the house, he was welcomed by everybody as if each member of the household had known him well. "You are welcome here," they said heartily. Yoshifuji spent the night there with the woman. The following morning, another woman who seemed to be the mistress of the household came and said, "I am so glad you came. There is a providence in it. I sincerely hope that you will stay here as long as you wish." On seeing the woman, Yoshifuji instantly became infatuated with her. He decided to stay in the house as long as possible. Capricious by nature, Yoshifuji was inconsistent in love. Thus he stayed in the house for a long period of time. In the household of Yoshifuji, on the other hand, they were wondering what was the matter with him. He did not come back in the evening. He was away from home at night. Was he philandering somewhere? As usual. Midnight still found him not at home. Gone for a long trip? No, it could not be so. He had left his house in his white robe, abbreviated clothes worn in those days, a wadded garment with a skirt. The day broke in alarm. They combed the village for Yoshifuji. The whereabouts of the man were still unknown. Had he joined the priesthood, having grown weary of the world, or drowned himself, realizing the uncertainty of life? Strange, this thing, they thought. Now to return to the luxurious house, where Yoshifuji, the wanton man, was leading a licentious life with a fascinating mistress. The woman with whom he was intimately related had given birth to a child, and they, the man and the woman, were bound up with each other, and their love was growing with the years. Yoshifuji had two brothers, Toyonaka, his elder brother, and Toyotsune, his younger brother. The former was the chief of a sub-prefecture, and the latter the priest of a big temple. Both of these people were also rich. They wanted to find the body of Yoshifuji at all costs, through the favor of Kanzeon, the goddess of mercy, so they made her image out of a huge oak tree and prayed at night and day, kneeling down before it. They implored the goddess for the repose of the soul of the departed man. However, their efforts seemed not to bear fruit. Still, they continued to pray, awake or asleep, with untiring zeal. Now it so happened that one day that a person carrying the long staff of a priest came to the house where Yoshifuji was staying. "Here he comes." The members of the family cried in consternation on seeing this person. Then they flew in all directions. The caller made Yoshifuji come out of a narrow place by prodding him on the back with the staff. On the evening of the 13th day since Yoshifuji dropped out of sight, his people were talking together about him, sitting in a room when they saw a strange black creature looking like a monkey come creeping on all fours, with his hips raised high from under the floor of a warehouse, standing facing the house. Said the strange creature, "I'm here, folks." He was no less a person than Yoshifuji. Tadasada, his son, felt it strange. However, it was the voice of his father that he heard. Therefore he got down on the ground and pulled him up. Said Yoshifuji, "I was staying alone at home, feeling lonesome. I went out, and strolling along the road met a woman, who led me to her house, where I was obliged to become the father of a child. He was a boy, and he was so cute and lovely that I used to hold him every day in my arms, fondling him. I named him Taro, meaning first son. Therefore I will call you after Jiro, second son, as I respect his mother." Asked Tadasada, "Where is the child, father?" "Down there," replied Yoshifuji, pointing to the warehouse. Tadashada and the others, on hearing the words of Yoshifuji, were greatly surprised. They looked at Yoshifuji again. He looked haggard and sick. He was wearing the white robe he wore when leaving the house, a dirty robe now, and it smelt bad. A servant was sent to look under the floor of the warehouse. At the approach of the servant, several foxes were seen running away helter-skelter. The servant found where his master used to sleep, under the cobwebby floor. Now they learned for the first time that Yoshifuji had been bewitched by foxes, and that he had forgotten to return to his own house, and after becoming the husband of a female fox beauty. They called in a high priest to pray for his speedy recovery from the fox's witchcraft, and a man exorcising evil spirits to purify him. They washed him several times, too. Still, he did not look as he used to be. Gradually, however, he came to his senses. He believed that he had lived with a fascinating foxwoman in a luxurious house for a period of 13 years, but in reality he had spent only 13 days with her under the floor of her warehouse. Now it was revealed that he had been saved by the favors of Kazeon, the goddess of mercy, appearing in the form of a priest carrying a long staff. This story, by the way, was told by Miyoshi no Kiyotsura, the feudal lord of Bichu province in those days. The story of an imperial household guard officer disillusioned by an act of a fox. A Toneri, whose duty was to guard the imperial palace in the Heian era, by the name of Yasutaka, was a man of romantic disposition. Now you see him going home from the imperial palace to bring one of his retainers who had failed to arrive at the palace. He was walking alone in the grounds, a refreshing night with a bright moon, about the middle of September. Presently the Toneri officer caught sight of a young woman when he was approaching the pine grove there. She was attired in an aster-colored dress of figured cloth. She had a superb figure, a fact he perceived at a glance. She must be a beautiful thing, Yasutaka imagined. The moonlight seemed to enhance her charm. Yasutaka followed her. He was wearing a pair of high wooden clogs. Click-clack, click-clack. He walked after her, bathed in the moonlight. One or two suzumushi, a kind of cricket with a sweet and sonorous chirping, were singing in the pine grove. Soon Yasutaka overtook the attractive figure. He walked, drawing near her. She seemed shy. She walked, covering her face with a pictured fan. She looked pretty, with her straight tresses of the side locks playing on her forehead and cheeks. Yasutaka drew close to her and touched her. She was faintly redolent of ranjatai, a precious incense imported from Korea in the reign of the Emperor Shomu in the early part of the 8th century. Said Yasutaka, "At this hour of the night, where in the world are you going?" A sweet voice responded from behind the pictured fan. "I'm going to the house of a person living at Nishinokoyu." Said Yasutaka, "You had better come with me to my house. I live at Nishino-Kyoto," said the girl with a sweet smile in her eyes, a pair of clear eyes. "You know me, do you?" Yasutaka simply smiled back. She was, to the delight of the Toneri officer, a woman endowed with personal charms. They walked together in the moonlight. Presently the girl entered the Konoye gate at the palace. Now Yasutaka said to himself, "They say that there lives a fox in the habit of bewitching people here in this premises. Is this charming girl a fox? And she is still covering her face with the fan. Very strange, this. Well, I will put the matter to the proof." Yasutaka seized the girl abruptly by one of her sleeves and said, "Wait, girl. Stay right here for a moment. I want to say something to you." On hearing this, the girl looked more bashful, covering her face with the pictured fan. Said Yasutaka, still seizing her by the sleeve, "Now I'm going to disrobe you, do you hear me?" So declaring, the Toneri officer unsheathed his short sword, about 8 inches long, a glittering blade. It looked cold and shiny like an icicle. Continued Yasutaka, "I'm going to cut your throat. Take off your clothes." The Toneri officer now seized the girl by the hair. He pinned her against a pillar of the gate. He was on the point of plunging the sword into her throat when, unexpectedly, his nostrils were assailed with a pungent and offensive smell, so pungent and offensive, in fact, that, tough and daring as he was, Yasutaka loosed his grip on the girl, sneezing. In an instant, the fascinated girl changed herself into a fox and took to flight. The fox was soon heard barking somewhere in the distance outside the gate. The Imperial Guard officer was left with the smell still hanging in the night air. Yasutaka felt chagrined at his unsuccessful attempt. Later it is said he went out nightly to see the fox, assuming the shape of the charming girl. He wanted to see her again, in spite of the smell. No further opportunities occurred, however. One should not try to become friendly with a charming girl walking alone of a night. In the case of Yasutaka, however, he was clever and cautious enough not to be cheated by a fox, they said. So what do we think so far? Are we still having fun with his literature? It's probably the most thorough mythology we've ever dipped into. Our prior attempts at reading mythology have just kind of gotten strange. You nearly fell asleep? Well, that's normal, isn't it, Nobru? I don't know what at-fi means, Dragon Mike. Hello, Timmers. Welcome in. So for those who are curious about the mask, oh, you just accidentally hit enter. This as well as this and a whole sheaf of other ones that I have never taken the time to mock up are masks that were originally used by another ASM artist, Celine Schatz, when she decided to get out of doing cosplay streams and went back to school. More power to her. Good choice in making a decision to improve yourself. She auctioned off many of her props. That's where we got the square wave. It's also where we got the music bot and these masks. But I don't often have an occasion to use them because I have to wear contacts if I'm going to use them, or I won't be able to see well enough to even read chat, much less a book. You need to go to bed because you need to be up at 5 to go work out? Well, that's fair. I condemn you to sleep. You will sleep now. Sleep. That's kind of a cool visual with the hands in the foreground and the mask on. Sleep. 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 Genki desu. Welcome in, Foxhole Radio. Ha 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 ha. Bye bye. Your arm has fallen asleep. Sleep. Foxhole Radio, you've come in when we only have one section of stories left to read, but I think you'd still enjoy it. We're finally reading through the Kitsune Lore that we have assembled, and it's been kind of fun. Have a great night, Nobru. Maybe. I haven't done any research into yokai. All right. Chapter 6, The Fox and the Konjaku Monogatari, continued. The story of General Toshihito, who employed a fox for his guest, exercising an influence upon it. In the 10th century, there lived a general whose name was Toshihito. He was in the service of Motosune, the prime minister in his younger days. Brave and intelligent, he was promoted to the rank of general, and he married the daughter of an influential man of Suruga in Echizen province, a province very far from the capital Kyoto. Therefore, the general lived there in his mansion. One year, during the New Year's celebrations, a great banquet was given in the mansion of the prime minister. Previously, it was customary to give the leavings of the table to the beggars coming for them when the banquet was over. On that particular occasion, however, officials and others in the service, among those shared them was an official with a 5th grade court rank, a low rank. On that particular occasion, however, the remnants of the dinner were eaten by officials and others in the service. During the repast, this official with a 5th grade court rank was heard saying, "Oh, how I wish I could eat imagayu to my heart's content." General Toshihito, who had been listening attentively to the remark made by this official, stroking his left side whisker with his strong hand, said, "Well, Taiyu, have you not eaten imagayu to your heart's content yet?" Answered the Taiyu, No, sir. To tell you the truth, I've never eaten imogayo to my heart's content in my life, said the general. In that case, I shall have the pleasure of seeing you eat imogayo to your heart's content some day, said the Taiyu. That is good, very good indeed, asked the general. Would you accept my offer? With great pleasure, General, was the reply. 4 or 5 days later, towards evening, General Toshihito came to the quarters of the Taiyu. Come with me, Taiyu. I am going to take you to a place near Higashiyama, where I hear there is good hot springs, said the Taiyu in glee. That is good, very good indeed. I will go with you with great pleasure, General. Incidentally, I am at present feeling itchy, especially this evening. I am afraid I shall not be able to sleep well tonight. By the way, is there any means of conveyance to take me there? The general assured him. 2 horses are ready at the gate. The joy of the official with the 5th grade court rank knew no bounds. That is good, very good indeed, he said. Please wait for a moment. I will put something on. Now the Taiyu put on for the occasion 2 thinly padded garments, one over the other, a worn-out green-colored skirt of silk, a hunting suit of the same color, the shoulders of which were somewhat out of shape. He did not take the trouble of wearing an underskirt, as was the custom at that time. The Taiyu was a man with a prominent nose, the tip of which was reddish. The nostrils were always wet in winter, a fact proving that he was not in the habit of wiping his nose, apparently. The back of the aforesaid hunting suit was rumpled as he tied the sash tightly. The Taiyu presented a comical sight. The general and the Taiyu proceeded toward Higashiyama, where the general had told the Taiyu the good hot spring was. The Taiyu rode ahead of the general. They came to the Kamigawa River beach. The Taiyu was not accustomed even by a not accompanied even by a boy footman. General Toshihito had an attendant, a man carrying arms, and a servant. After passing the Kamigawa River beach, they were approaching Awataguchi. It's a little more fun reading this kind of mythology when I know where these places are. It makes me happy that most of these are taking place in Kyoto. Asked the Taiyu, Where are we now? He was told. Then they passed Yamashina. Then they passed Sekiyama. They went on and on. The hoofs rang on the deserted road. Then, to the surprise of the Tain, they arrived at Midera Temple. Do we stop here? Inquired the Taiyu. Is this the place where there's a hot spring? No, Taiyu, answered General Toshihito, not here. To tell you the truth, I'm taking you to my palace at Tsuruga in... This is clearly a misprint in the PDF. Let's just go with Kitsune province. What's actually written is FTCLIIXEN, which does not sound like a word to me. But maybe Foxhole knows this one by chance and can tell us. Oh wait, it's explained in the next paragraph. The Taiyu said that Elchizen province was a distant province, and that he should have brought his servants with him from Kyoto to accompany him. General Toshihito stroked his left side whisker as usual and said, Do not worry, Taiyu. When I go with you, you may consider yourself accompanied by an army of 1,000 men. On hearing this, the Taiyu seemed to have felt much relieved. After taking a meal, they left the temple for their destination, Tsuruga, in Fushimi province. Now the general was riding ahead of the Taiyu, taking a quiver from his man and carrying it on his back. They were passing along a road lonely again. The north wind was blowing over the withered grass, the paddy fields, with only stacks of rice straw and stubble of rice plants. They heard the muffled sound of a distant bell, coming evidently from the Midera temple, from which they had departed. When they were riding along Mitsunohama beach, a fox was seen running hurriedly. On seeing the fox, the general startled in pursuit of it, saying, Oh, Splendid. A good messenger for you, Taiyu. The fox ran as fast as its legs could carry it. The general rode after it at a gallop. Finally, when the horse was running abreast of the fox, General Toshihito lowered himself onto the flank of his horse, seizing the animal by one of its hind legs. Said the general to the fox, "Fox, you go to my mansion at Suruga tonight, you understand? Tell my family that I am taking a guest home. Tell them to come to see me with 2 saddled horses near Takashima at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You understand? If you should fail to fulfill your mission, Toshihito will handle you roughly. You understand? Now, run along." So saying, the general set the fox free. The Taiyu saw the fox run away at full speed and disappear behind a wood in the distance. Said General Toshihito to the Taiyu, "An exceptionally good messenger, isn't he? Wait and see. Will he do as he was told without fail?" Again, typos. Whoever was transcribing this PDF at this point of the project was clearly getting tired. They stayed at an inn that night. On the following morning, they got up very early and proceeded towards Suruga, the end of their journey. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, the general said to the Taiyu, "It is about the time." "About what time?" asked the Taiyu. "Wait and see," answered the general. Presently the Taiyu saw a party of horsemen coming, galloping toward the general's party. "My men have come for us," said the general. "Are they your men?" said the Taiyu. "Really?" "Yes," replied the general. "The fox reached my mansion all right, a clever animal." A strange thing. Very strange indeed, unbelievable. The Taiyu could not bring himself to believe it. Before long the party came nearer. The general called out, "Have you brought 2 saddled horses?" One of his men responded, "Yes, my lord, we have brought the 2 saddled horses." General Toshihito heard the following. "About 8 o'clock in the evening," recounted one of the men, "her ladyship at the mansion felt a sharp pain in her breast. We did not know what the matter with her ladyship was. Presently, however, her ladyship said, 'I am a fox. Nobody else. I happened to see his lordship today at Mitsunohama Beach. He was unexpectedly coming home from the capital with his guest. I wanted to run away. However, I was caught by him. He came galloping after me, faster than me. He told me to reach the mansion within a day and tell the people to bring 2 saddled horses at 10 o'clock in the morning on the following day to Takashima. The general said, I must do as I was told, if I did not want to be handled roughly by him." And that is the end of the story. Okay, looks like they never completely finished this upload. That is a shame. It does say it's in progress, but that's as far as they've taken it so far. So I guess we don't get to learn if the Taiyu is also a kitsune. Well, folks, that means that I am out of literature for the night. So we've got a little while. I could end early, or we could do triggers, or maybe there's something else you would like. How about poems? Anyone want to do poems? I don't know that word, Foxhole. I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Bye-bye. I'm curious what a koan is, though, so I'm looking it up. A koan is a story, dialogue, question, or statement from the Chinese Chan lore, supplemented with commentaries. It is used in Zen practice to provoke the great doubt and initial insight of Zen students. Prolonged koan study is intended to shatter small-minded pride of and identification with this initial insight and spurs further development of insight and compassion and integration thereof in daily life and character. So it is things along the line of, this is my interpretation, this is things along the line of, what is the sound of one hand clapping, meant to inspire insightful thought. Well, cool. I did not know the word. I suppose technically it is a Japanese term, so I can be forgiven for not having it in my English vocabulary, but it's a good word. I could see using that word in other contexts. The popular Western understanding sees koan as referring to an unanswerable question or a meaningless or absurd statement. However, in Zen practice, a koan is not meaningless and not a riddle or puzzle. Teachers do expect students to present an appropriate response when asked about a koan. According to Hori, a central theme of many koans is the identity of opposites. An example is, two hands clap and there is a sound. What is the sound of one hand? Hey, there we go. What is your original face before your mother and father were born? Alluding to duality. Cute, curious, very intriguing. Thank you for the hydrate. I don't currently feel the need for a stretch. Let's go ahead and bring out the sand. Well, there can certainly be very many answers to where are you, even in the most obvious situations. I'm not sure that I see that as quite having the duality that is hinted at in the other examples, but certainly if the goal is to provoke thought. My phone does not appear to be handy, so we'll use the other camera as our top-down. Imperfect though it be. Okay, I can see that logic. Today we shall go looking for the Japanese nickel and the European cent and a 50 peso note. 3 coins. Oh, Dragon Mike, you have failed to pass the impromptu philosophy test. However will you endure? Fortunately, our scorn, which happens to come in the form of 2 hands wagging at you, you will also not hear, because you don't quite know what 1 hand wagging means. Yes, that's it. And yes, that is me facetiously turning it around. But there we go. You think you will find the European scent, Bye-Bye? Well, maybe you will. Did I share with you what my biggest surprise for my time in Kyoto was, Foxhole Radio? It was a very little thing. I found that in the onsen, I like the electric bath. I didn't expect to, but I did. I liked it. Well, Bye-Bye, where we're going to dig? Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, or Quadrant 4? Two for the European scent. All right. It was a fun thing. I enjoyed the onsen overall quite a bit. And electric bath is exactly what it sounds like. It is a hot bath in which they are running electricity through it, which causes your muscles to seize and tense up just as if they were under light stimulation, which means you get an effect similar to a massage chair without needing to find a jet. But Bye-Bye has chosen 2. So that's where we shall dig. Okay. Well, it appears that the Japanese nickel was in the gap between the 2, so we found that. Let's see what else we can find here. No, at least it didn't me. There could be stronger ones out there. I'm calling it a Japanese nickel because I don't actually know the proper term for the coin, but it is a 5 yen piece. And we found the 50 peso. So far, you're a pretty good treasure hunter. You just didn't yet find the treasure you were seeking. And the €1. So only 3 coins, and they were all in the same section, and you found them all. You may be our bestest treasure hunter of all at the moment. Bye-Bye. I mean, that's a pretty impressive score. So let us turn our eye back to these pictures we're using as a backdrop in our stream today. Good night, Croc. Sleep well. These fox statues, when I bumped into them in Fushimi Inari, well, technically this is the same fox statue from two angles, but this and the companion piece that was opposite it really were quite creepy and disturbing when you come upon them in the dark. That whitish light you see in the background, that's the effect of the night vision capability on my camera. It was super dim, basically just silhouettes. And, you know, they're cute and adorable. And I'm glad I got this shot, but it does add to the reason why I can see people wanting to associate Fushimi Inari with ghost stories. And there is a picture. Let's see, is it still good to go there? Looks like it's... Nope, that didn't work. Let's just add another image here. And that location definitely gave me my favorite picture from the entire trip, which was... this one. It just looks kind of spooky. Catching the lens flares and the mist was pretty spectacular. Well, I didn't say there were violent ghost stories or creepy or unpleasant ones. Just ghost stories. Spooky things. People tell weird stories when you're in a place that's dark and unfamiliar. But yes, that is absolutely beautiful. Honestly, if I had taken this trip and had no experience other than the emotional roller coaster that I was hoping for in visiting Hiroshima, and this particular moment as I entered the site, I think I still would have considered it a worthwhile trip. I do play D&D, Limp Bizkit. Well, Bisquick. I say I do. I have. I'm not actively involved in the games at the moment. Keep thinking about starting one with my mods, but I would probably have to schedule that a little better. Downsize what, Dragon Mike? Downsize what? You're someone I would like to show around some of the lesser known places in Japan. I would probably enjoy that, Foxhole Radio, but I seriously doubt if I will be back anytime soon. There's limits to how much airfare I could afford. If, on the other hand, let us consider an alternate life. My first trip to Japan was scheduled in such a way that it was literally canceled out from under me by one day when they closed the border in response to the pandemic. If I had already traveled at that time, and I was preparing to do so, then I most likely would have been stranded in Japan for a couple of years. In theory, if we had known one another, that would have given you plenty of time to show me all sorts of things. And I probably would have improved my Japanese at least a little bit. But that is not the course life took. Oh, I get it now, Dragon Mike. You would be a good dungeon master. Thank you, Limp Bizkit. I appreciate that sentiment. I like to think I tell an interesting story when I do decide to run D&D. I am still very interested in a plot that I'm holding on to for my next potential campaign, in which specifically to get around two flaws that happen in mini campaigns, and you all meet in a tavern approach and the lack of character backstory. I am thinking I will run a campaign that starts with all of the party members having been, for one reason or another, victims of a hag, transformed into different things, modified in various ways, and recently freed. And in the recently freed aspect, they will have to piece back together their lives, but first they'll have to tell me what those lives are, and they'll even have the reward that when I introduce a weird story element introduced by the hag, they get inspiration if they can tell me why that is. Just improvise it on the spot. How in the world did this come to be for you? And from that, I think we could make for some wonderful character arcs. But haven't run it yet. Also of interest, the only module, meaning pre-planned adventure, that I have not had to put, well, all of the work into on that I've ever run, and I say this because I think it is very amusing, wasn't actually a D&D adventure. I ran it for a D&D group. I've actually run it 3 times for a D&D group, but it's a Call of Cthulhu adventure, so I have fun with that. Usually results in people doing very stupid things. Alright. Share some of the photos by all means, Foxhole Radio. And it wasn't a 13-hour flight. For me, it was a 15-hour flight arriving, because I didn't take a direct flight. I routed through Honolulu. So a 5-hour and 10-hour leg, which made it somewhat worse. Especially since upon arriving, I then had to immediately figure out the Japanese subway system while on very little sleep, having never even visited a subway before. Fortunately, it turns out the Japanese subway system is easy. It took me a little while to figure out if the ticket machine that I was purchasing a ticket at was the best choice. And then I tried to go in and out once and was immediately bounced out. But no, it took me maybe 5 minutes. Yeah. I mean, considering that I had never been in one before and that everything was in Japanese, weren't the Japanese subways always crowded? Yes and no. When I was taking the hop between Kyoto Station and just about anywhere, yes, but that was a hub. If I actually got on at the start of any of the lines, however, which also usually meant I was in one of the forward cars, no, didn't really notice any problem with it. And if I was taking a longer run that went between suburbs, also didn't notice a problem with it. It was only if I got on at the most crowded spot. Those may exist, bye-bye. If they do exist, I did not encounter them. The buses were more crowded than the subways, ultimately. And there was an instance where, to get off the bus, I had to force my way through half a dozen people who had nowhere to go, so I had to squash them in order to get off the bus. Banana Roofie, let's see. How do you navigate the stations in Japan in general? Also, is cash absolutely needed? Well, no. Cash is not absolutely needed. But by the time I figured out how to get what amounts to a Metro card, so that I just have something I can use for tap to pay, my trip was over. So it's probably best to just take cash, especially if you're combining subways and buses, because they don't always carry over. As for the navigating, so most of the major streets are ultimately built on a grid system that is just following the Japanese number system. So once you know that well enough to picture the grid in your mind, it becomes relatively easy to figure out at least the direction you're traveling in. And in the case of both the buses and the subways, they tell you multiple stops in advance where you're going. So between that and Google Maps just giving me a status update on where I was, it was easy. Very easy. Tipping in Japan, from what I had read, is considered offensive. I saw one tip jar while I was there, and it was a restaurant that very clearly focused on tourists almost exclusively. That was it. And they certainly did not give me a hard time about not leaving a tip. In some places, there are people who do that, or the pushers. Did I visit a kombini? Is that a department store? I don't know the term. Do they speak English? Light English seemed to be very common, like basic, conversational, simple English. Even in my hotel, however, with the concierge, if I had even a mildly complicated or out of the norm question, we wound up using translation apps to get through it. But they were very good at piecing in the gaps. So between my broken Japanese and their broken English and a little bit of a translation app, there was only one instance where I could not get my point across, and eventually I got my point across by hand gestures. And that was with a cab, and it was the first time using their equivalent to Uber. And it turned out that the reason we were miscommunicating is that I had hit the wrong button on the Uber and it had not actually input my destination. So when I just stated the destination, we were all good. That's it. That's all it took. Let's see. Some places they charge gaijin more, don't serve them at all. I absolutely believe that that could be the case. If that was the case anywhere that I went, I did not feel the impact of it. None of the foods felt overpriced. None of the staff appeared to want me gone. But it was Kyoto. I mean, even more than Tokyo, Kyoto is built for tourism. It was built for, it's been structured around the idea of tourism for its entire frickin' history, between the Imperial Palace and all of the shrines and temples. So a kombini is like our convenience stores. Oh, the 7-Elevens and the Family Marts. Yes, I did visit them, and I actually found them amazingly good. And I appreciated that they had products that I would never have bought in a similar fashion in the US. such as good socks. Because my shoes were a little loose, and climbing around in the hills of Kyoto, that meant I had blisters on my feet by the third day. And some good socks really help with that. Hello, Vamp Squad. How are you today? I'm pretty sure that I wound up in a Don Quixote at one point, and it was horrifying. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? It would chuck it would if it could, as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. And a pat to do boop. We can do that too. All right, let's turn off this image. If it was a Don Quixote I was in, and it could have been under a different name, I found it the most horrifying shopping experience of my life. Every aisle was maybe 15 feet long. Everything was painted red. There was merchandise on every possible surface. And if there was signage that helped you make sense of the themes in the individual areas, I couldn't read it. So the end result was I actually got lost in the store. I couldn't find my way back to the escalator. I needed to ask for help to leave the building. And if I saw something I thought I might want, and I walked away from it, even by a few feet, there was no way I was finding it again. Ear boop, ear boop, ear double boop, and smooch. And with every patented ear boop, you get a super silly, Fox-approved nickname. So for you, Vamp Squad, since it's nighttime for you, and sunny, sunny sunshine for me, you get to be Toast. Toast Squad. Toast Squad. Toast Squad, Toast Squad, Toast Squad. But I only went to that particular store because I was actually trying to find another one that sold anime-related products, which turned out to be 4 floors above it. And I eventually found it. And I managed to find something that I could use as souvenirs for the friend that wanted me to get something anime-related. I should have brought back more. At the end of the day, I got a lovely little frameable art print from, in this case, Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, which is my favorite anime, and the first one I had ever watched. And I picked up several more others from Studio Ghibli, but they were so cheap. 330 yen, about $2. I should have bought a sheaf of them 30 thick and resold them here in the States, because I'm pretty sure I could have gotten 20 bucks a pop for them. But I didn't think to do that. I'm glad it's nighttime for you, though, Vamp Squad, because otherwise, being a vampire, you would not be having a good day. Yes, I really should have, and it would have offset some of the costs. But I don't normally think in those terms when I'm getting souvenirs. I was just happy that the price was so reasonable, as was the case with almost everything. The most expensive thing I bought in the entire country, I mean other than the hotel and the airfare, was like $180, and that was the bullet train ticket to Hiroshima because I chose to go first class. We're not talking major expenses for anything while I was there, which was pretty cool. I did find it interesting that the cab app was always wrong because it would send me a cab and it would give me a price and it would say as metered. And even before factoring in that I was using coupons on said app, every single time the actual metered charge was only about 50% of what it said it was going to charge. And that's what they actually charged me. So, you know, that makes it pretty nice. A critter trigger for Dragon Mike. Well, it being for Dragon Mike, let's do something with our dragon. Did I eat any sushi? I did not. I've never eaten sushi before, and I was looking forward to the idea of eating sushi there for the first time. I really was. And I was looking forward to wandering into a sushi bar and saying, "Omikaze," and really putting myself in their hands. However, 3 things worked against me there. The first thing that worked against me was that the best sushi places I got anywhere near basically didn't open until relatively late for dinner. And I was there during the first couple of days of the trip, when while I was still acclimating to jet lag, I was usually falling asleep by 3 in the afternoon. So that took those opportunities out. And then I wound up near a few that were quite good and were open, but required reservations that I had not established because I honestly couldn't tell when I was going to be there. So those were out. And that wound up leaving me with the hole-in-the-wall operations that could have been extremely good, but did not give me the sense of comfort, welcoming, or really even hygiene in some cases to make me want to put myself in their hands. So at the end of the day, I had a lot of ramen, but I did not have any sushi. And yes, I do operate well with chopsticks. Have I tried natto? I didn't try it on this trip because I have tried it before. I do not like it. And I developed an appreciation for a food I had never really considered before, enough so that when I came back, I actually immediately bought some and included it in my cooking. Daikon. Daikon will now frequently be appearing in my various stews as a substitute for potatoes, because the daikon provides a similar texture and a similar flavor, but it's a little extra sweet. It's even easier to prepare, and I mean, because I can buy a single daikon instead of buying bags of potatoes, not nearly as much goes to waste if I don't continuously cook the same meal. And if I let the stew simmer for a couple of days and keep going back to it, it doesn't break down as much. So, yeah, daikon. Great big radish. Quite a fan. I also found another dish that I quite liked. Well, I guess that's it for reading tonight, since that's one of the contacts coming out. and it's been fighting me all night. It was from a Nepalese restaurant, and it was just cheese naan. I had never had naan with cheese in it before, and in this case, for those of you who enjoy naan, picture flatbread with fried mozzarella in it, with butter and rosemary, and I think it was rosemary oil. And yeah, that was amazing. Not strictly Japanese, but it was amazing. The lamb I had to go with it, I could have taken or left, but that was spectacular. And the first proper bowl of ramen I had was blowtorched for me tableside to turn the wagyu on the rim into basically bacon. Yes, I suspect it would, Foxhole. The Japanese curries, I don't know, I kind of liked the idea that it was a spicy gravy. Let's see here. I didn't have much in the way of complaints about really anything that I had to eat there. This was pretty yummy, for instance. Although this dish was just weird. Quick, at a glance, what various elements do you see in this dish? Keep in mind that it was only described on the menu as a sweet waffle. Oh, good interpretation, Moose. Not quite. It is a waffle, and it is vanilla ice cream, but it isn't balsamic, it's chocolate sauce, and strawberry compote, and pomegranate, and an orange slice, and a sprig of mint, and peanuts, and another type of berry that I did not recognize, which is somewhere in the span between a gooseberry and a blueberry. All of it in the same dish. Yes, there's definitely mint. It was fresh baby mint, or at least it was fresh mint. And yes, it was very tasty, but it was absolutely not what I expected. When I ordered something called a sweet waffle, I expected it to be basically a donut shaped like a waffle. That was not what this was. The peanuts were a weird touch, and since it isn't a particularly wet meal, keeping the peanuts on the fork with the waffle were challenging, unless I cut around the individual squares just right to use them like an impromptu spoon. Nothing wanted to stay on. But it was tasty. It was not. It was served with fork. Chopsticks were available if I wanted them. I'm not quite sure how I would have gone about eating this with chopsticks, since I'm not particularly good at cutting with them. Let's see. Do I have any other food pictures from there? Let's see. Okay, that makes sense. Stab and spread would work. Not very even or precise, but that's just a matter of practice. Here's that first bowl of ramen. I can certainly see that, Moose. So here we had blowtorched wagyu and a tuna fillet and something spongy that had originally looked like a bunny, so I think it was just a piece of tofu or parsnip that was meant to be shaped nicely. The cornichon, which was like a green onion, hard-boiled egg, and of course the soba noodles. Is that a flower next to the ramen? A flower. No. Are you referring to the stuff below it? Because that's just a pile of salt on the spoon. Oh, I see. Is that flour, not a flower? Nope. Sea salt. So that you can individually season each spoonful to your content. I did not take a picture of it, but I also had a dish at the aquarium on my final day that I still don't know quite how to interpret. They described it as a frozen soda. Okay, so I went into it anticipating something the equivalent of a slushie. What I actually got was a soda that had been flash frozen with, it looked like dry ice. And then, once solid, broken up like rock candy and poured into a cup. And as it slowly thawed, or more rapidly thawed if you were munching on it at the time, it would detonate in your mouth like Pop Rocks. So that was my drink. Think about that. That was a little awkward. All right, folks. We have reached about our 3-hour mark, and I have run through all of the lore about Kitsune that I had prepared and wanted to share. So I think we're going to start wrapping up now. Dragon's Breath Soda Ice. I don't know if that's the specific name brand, but sure, it kind of felt like that. I appreciate you being here, all of you, and for putting up with my silliness as I was wearing that mask today. Now, as for what comes next, I'm glad you enjoyed those picks. I have many other picks, but I had promised that Fushimi Inari video, so I wanted to make sure to stream that tonight. I had many wonderful times while I was in Japan, and even if it was only a week, I felt like I got a lot out of it. I think I shared the emotional whiplash story from Hiroshima, but as we wrap up, I'm going to share it again. I went down to Hiroshima with the specific intent of reflecting in an environment where I was going to feel emotional conflict. I wanted to have some catharsis and also some real confrontational emotions. And the museum in Hiroshima at the Memorial Peace Park is said to be extremely good at that. I didn't even make it into the museum because I went to one of their overflow exhibits at a different memorial. But in there, I got to experience what I have referred to since as the emotional roller coaster, because I caught an exhibit that was full of testimonials from first responders arriving in Hiroshima after the blast in World War II. And first-hand accounts of that kind are always deeply moving if you allow yourself to kind of lean into the feels. But while they were describing these incidents, it was also revealed that they were only in a position to be first responders because they'd been training at a military base just south as a children's volunteer brigade. Okay, so now just to add to the emotional feels, these were kids between 15 and 18. But there were a children's volunteer brigade that had been training to be something called ashibatsu, which is a type of suicide bomber. So suddenly it's very difficult to remain quite so empathic with them, but the story is still extremely moving. Everything about being in Hiroshima had an emotional roller coaster like that. Even when I left the Memorial Peace Park, the next place I went was a Zen garden called Shukein, where I spent the next 2 hours feeding groups of jealous goldfish that kept trying to eat one another in order to get them out of the competitive pool so that they could eat more of the food. Everything about it was just highs and lows in exactly that way, and I thought it was fabulous. Hello, Mithra. Welcome in. You are catching us just as we are getting ready to wrap up, but I appreciate you being here nonetheless. And just in case that doesn't already sound like enough of an emotional conflict situation, I didn't just wrap up the trip with the Zen Buddhist temple, or the Zen garden. The day before had been Nara, so I went from petting fuzzy deer to contemplating the past to staring into the water while feeding fish. So up and down and up again, but it's exactly what I was seeking. And if any of you ever have the opportunity to visit Japan and are interested in things of that nature, I definitely do recommend a visit to Hiroshima. Kyoto had many gorgeous sights, and I'm sure there are tons more that I didn't get the chance to visit in other cities. Just tons, because it's that sort of a country. But that experience, when I planned the trip, felt like one that I would not be able to match anywhere else. And it really did feel like it came across as one that I would not be able to match anywhere else. Well, since we have gotten to about that point, there are so many lovely people on that I don't want to end without at least some kind of a raid. So let's go and visit a friend. Unless this is a rerun. Let me double check. Doesn't say it's a rerun. Okay. It was a pleasure, and we will be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow since I ran all the way through this, but we will figure something out, and then as soon as it arrives, it's just taking a while in shipping, we will begin Dune. Okay. If you are interested, here's our Discord and our YouTube, which we hope to start adding more content to if we start launching shorts soon. And our link for Audible in case you just want one of those style of books. And, you know, a lovely little raid tag or two. Moose, I'm glad you could join us as well. Foxhole, I'm glad you could catch us and stay with us long enough to have at least a brief conversation about some of these topics, and I hope we can chat more. I don't mind doing just chatting. When I offer to do just chatting, I usually don't get any questions. Domo. All right, friends. As a reminder, in case you do not already know this, and you should, you are all worthy of love and affection, and we do appreciate you around here. Whatever your evening brings you, I hope it brings you peace. Take care now, friends. It has been a great pleasure.